It is Monday in the NFL. My three best bets are on the way. We got two games now as the Bills and Steelers game got postponed from Sunday to Monday. We're going to talk about that game. And of course, we're going to talk about the Buccaneers and the Eagles game. What's going on? My name is Austin from Call and Rashad. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is my second to last video from Minneapolis in a random hotel room right next to the Mall of America. Appreciate you guys coming in and tuning in. We'll be back in our normal home studio, probably starting on Monday. Well, technically Tuesday's edition of videos. But either way, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let's dive into Monday's slate of action. Like I said, we weren't planning on talking about that Bills and Steelers game, but we're going to talk about it. I already talked about my pick in that one, but we'll rehash it and kind of go over that game. But if you are new, like I said, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button down below. Bunches of deposit matches and things of that nature in the description down below, and free squares to use on Monday. But let's dive into this first game, Bills and Steelers. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this play because we already talked about it. It's Jaylen Warren and how I'm backing him. Doing a two-leg same-game parlay for him. It's 25 rush yards and 3+ receptions for plus 120 on Bet365. Should be able to get it around that, or maybe minus 110 value on FanDuel. I really like it for Jaylen Warren. I already had it locked in. Obviously, the change of time obviously does affect some plays, but didn't really affect this one because I still do think the weather's not going to be great regardless. And I really like Jaylen Warren. It's a great matchup for him. Now, he's been really consistent getting the rushing yards, and we've seen him do that in 13 of his last 15 games. A lot of people will be on Najee Harrison, reasonably so. Harris has looked really good, but he's also been in some very positive game script where it's like, all right, we're up by 2 touchdowns. Let's just run the football with Najee Harris. He's a guy that doesn't fumble. He's just going to consistently get a few yards, try to move the sticks. However, in a game where they are 10-point underdogs, they're going to need Jaylen Warren out there. He's kind of that big play potential guy, something Najee really doesn't do a ton of. But we've seen Jaylen Warren, he still gets the snaps. Like I said, 25 rush yards in 13 of his last 15 games. And but they're going to also need him in the receiving game. Much better receiver than Najee Harris. And we've talked with the Bills, team that give up a lot of receptions to opposing running backs. And we've seen, the last few games with Mason Rudolph, he's not afraid to check it down. I mean, Warren, last 5 games, 4, 5, 5, 4, and 5 receptions. I mean, this is a guy with 3 receptions or more in 14 of 17 games. Bills have been a really good team, especially against the pass recently. And in a game where, I don't know how windy it will be on Monday. Pretty sure the weather conditions are still not going to be great. Still do think you're going to see Mason Rudolph in a playoff game probably not be trying to stretch the ball down the field and throwing it deep to Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Instead, I see him playing a little bit more conservative, dumping it off to Jaylen Warren like he's been doing the last few games. I mean, heck, we just saw a bad weather game with them against the Ravens. He dumped it off a ton. There's a reason I'm on this for, again, even though the day change, it doesn't change my analysis. 25 rush yards and 3 receptions, or is over 2.5 receptions for Jaylen Warren, plus 120. I think this should be like minus 150, honestly. I think this is really good value we're getting over here. So give me Jaylen Warren. I liked his rushing yards. I liked his rushing plus receiving yards. I just think this is a little bit easier for him. So Jaylen Warren, need a pretty good game. Go run the football well on your 7 to 10 carries, and then get a couple catches, and we'll cash that out. Now, let's actually go to the second game, a game I have not talked about, as the Eagles are on the road in Tampa, taking on the Buccaneers. Interesting game here. Now, if I had to lean a game pick, I lean the Phillies, or not the Phillies, I lean the Eagles to win. Sorry, already in playoff, or in baseball mode, but I actually like the over in this game, but I'm not going to take either of those. I haven't had a great track record on my game picks. I do lean the over in this game. Instead, I'm going to go to a prop that does help with the over. We're going to start with Jalen Hurts as an anytime touchdown scorer, minus 115 on PointsBet. Now, if you flash back to just a few weeks ago, Jalen Hurts for a touchdown was like minus 250 sometimes. And look, I think we're getting a big discount because of the 2 straight bad weeks for the Eagles. They haven't looked good. Offense hasn't looked good. But at the end of the day, I don't really care how well the offense looks. When they get in close to the goal line, we know Jalen Hurts, obviously we get the tush push, the brotherly shove on our side, but we also know they're not afraid of running QB draws from like the 5 or 10 yard line. Also, Jalen Hurts not afraid from getting out on the edge. Maybe his guys aren't open, running it in there. And like I said, we have the tush push on our side, which sure, I know people love or hate the tush push. We're going to love it today if it does happen on Monday. So look, Jalen Hurts, we've looked at him this season. I mean, still scored a touchdown in a lot of games, but you flash back last year, really good. 9 of 15 games had a touchdown in. All 3 postseason games, he had a rushing touchdown in, including 3 in the Super Bowl. This year, 15 total rushing touchdowns. So he's, like I said, he's still getting those carries and still getting those, the brotherly shove type touchdowns, but still touchdown in 11 of 17. And that included a touchdown versus Tampa Bay back in week 3. We know how talented Tampa Bay's defense is in terms of stopping the run. So when they get in close, maybe they're like on the 3 yard line and they run it. I don't see Swift getting in. He's been allergic to the end zone. Not his fault. He always gets tackled at the 1, but I still think they're going to continuously do the brotherly shove, the tush push right at the 1 yard line. So we got that going for us. And I really do think Jalen Hurts is just going to get into the end zone. That's what he does postseason. You're going to continue to run your best plays. Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown now out for this game. they're going to have to find some other guys in the red zone, and maybe those guys just aren't getting open, and Jalen Hurts like, well, heck, I got to tuck it and run it and try to truck someone and get in. Certainly think he's capable of doing that. So Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown, I'd played it up to about minus 140. I really don't think we should be getting minus 115 or minus 120 on FanDuel for Hurts rushing touchdown. It's like a system play at this point. You just take it until they make it like minus 180. Then it's like, I don't really love that. But Jalen Hurts should be able to get into the end zone for us. And if it's a brotherly shove, I will absolutely love it. Now, my second pick is going to be a two-leg same-game parlay. It's going to talk about two guys that I really like their matchups. I like both of the regular overs, but you'll understand why I'm doing it like this. Now, it's going to be Dallas Goedert and Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, I need 50 receiving yards from him. And Dallas Goedert, I need 25 from him. It's minus 105 on Bet365. I want to say minus 113 on FanDuel, minus 120 on DraftKings. Don't quote me on that, but I think roughly around there. So should be able to play that. Now, obviously, if you're on like a PrizePicks or an Underdog Fantasy or Sleeper where you only can take maybe some guys regular over in yards, you can't do same game parlays, which if you aren't on any of those apps, you can sign up using our code COS and get a deposit match. Details down below. Yeah, your line would be Godwin's regular over in receiving yards. However, Godwin, you look at his line is 54.5. And some might say, well, Austin, why are we getting, complicating this? Why are we doing a two-leg same-game parlay? Why don't we just take Godwin's regular over? It's only asking for 5 more yards. Why complicate it in case Goddard gets injured? Sure, I get that. However, look at the stats and see why I'm taking Godwin 50 plus instead of his 54.5. Now, Godwin so far this season, he has 50 receiving yards in 12 of 17 games. Pretty good hit rate. I mean, he's consistently getting to 50. However, he is a master of ending between 50 and 54 because this season, he has only gone over 54.5 receiving yards in 7 of 17 games. This is a man that has ended on 51, 51, 53, 54, and 54 yards. He's landed in between his regular over at 54.5 and his alt line at 50 plus 5 times. Hence why I'm taking him at just 50 plus, which is about minus 135 on most books. Now, look, Godwin, I hope he goes over the 54.5, but with a guy like that, I'm going to just tend to go be a little bit more conservative and take the 50 plus receiving yards because I love Goddard's matchup, and we'll talk about him in a second. But obviously, why do we love Godwin? Well, because the Eagles, second most receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. And if they are to stop any wide receiver, it is going to be trying to stop Mike Evans because Mike Evans, we know he is the number one guy on the Bucs, and he's the number one guy for Baker Mayfield, who is scheduled to play. So at the end of the day, maybe they double Mike Evans and say, hey, someone else beat us. And when they play a lot of zone coverage, which is what the Eagles do, I mean, most teams play more zone coverage than man. You've seen actually Chris Godwin has a higher target share, higher target percentage against zone coverage than Mike Evans because Chris Godwin's normally sitting in those zones, getting those catches and turning it upfield. And I expect that's what the Eagles are going to do. Their linebackers have struggled in coverage. I think that we're going to see Godwin have a pretty good game. I mean, his receptions line is 4.5, juiced on the over. Some books are like minus 170. And so far this season, 23 wide receivers have 5 or more receptions, which is the books clearly think he gets 5. And in those 22 of those 23 had 50 plus receiving yards. The one I believe that missed was Brandon Ayuk. I think he ended up with like 46. But Chris Godwin, pretty good, pretty consistent, been really good the second half of the season with Baker Mayfield. Obviously, Mike Evans can get a ton of focus. I really think Godwin's in for a pretty good game. Normally shows up in the playoffs. I like Godwin for 50 plus. And by the way, I like Goddard. Well, because the Buccaneers are the team that has the second most receiving yards to tight ends. And with no A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert's always getting 25. He's normally a lock for 25 plus receiving yards. Without A.J. Brown, they're going to have to find other guys to throw it to. And I don't think they're going to be able to run it as efficiently as they did in that week 3 matchup when they ran absolutely berserk on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to have to throw the ball on this game. It is supposed to be a little bit rainy, so I think that maybe we see them lean on the shorter passes, which Goddard's normally a guy they play action, and he's just kind of leaking off the offensive line, catching it, and sometimes he turns that into like a 40-yard gain. I consider his regular over at like 47.5, but I'd rather just take the 25 plus. That should be a lock. He should easily get 25 plus, probably gets it in the first half. So that's what's going to be, I like the same game parlay. I think it's really good. 50 plus for Godwin. Obviously, he's the big one here. We need 50 from him, but 25 from Goddard should be pretty easy. So Godwin, you're the real leg. We need you. We need 50 receiving yards from you. And I think he has a pretty good game, pretty good matchup against this Eagles secondary, which has struggled all year. But it's Monday. There's only 3 picks. We got 3 of them. One in that Steelers game, Warren. We need 3 receptions and 25 rush yards. And then we got obviously Jalen Hurts to get into the end zone and Chris Godwin, 50 receiving yards, and Dallas Goedert, 25 plus as a 2-leg same game parlay. Done really well in the 2-leg same game parlays this season. Hopefully we have a great day. I will recap how we did in all of Wild Card Weekend, Super Wild Card Weekend. Next week, we did go 1-1 on Saturday with Devin Singletary and Patrick Mahomes splitting. Mahomes attempts free. Singletary could not get anything going. I mean, well, he had 13 rush attempts. He just didn't get a lot because they had 2 defensive touchdowns and a 76-yard touchdown, and it was a blowout. Everything went wrong for Singletary. But either way, love the picks today. Let's go 3-0 on Monday. Technically, I'm posting this on Sunday, but you get what I mean. Let's have a wonderful day, and I will be back in the normal time and place tomorrow on Tuesday for my normal picks. But you guys have a great day. See you guys in the next one. Peace.